you. We're on this vacation, and it's about wholeness and healing. It's part of our vacation and just being together and learning together and dealing with each other when it gets difficult. So I just want to thank you for taking the time to talk to us. It just means a lot to me. You're such a prominent figure. You are the figure in energy medicine. You've done so much for so many people.
Thank you. Well, spreading this around is the most important thing for me, It's like,
it's wonderful.
I want everybody on the entire planet to have those tools to heal themselves.
It'd be a different planet.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it has something to do with peace on earth, too.
Yes, it does.
It's like, wow, it's empowering, and if you can take care of yourself and your family or your friends, it changes everything.
Right.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to ask you, just like for the kids, what would you suggest they do every day?
Oh.
and how would that help them?
Okay. Well, one of the things I do in my classes, I teach everybody, and when I had a practice, a 5-minute routine. If people would do this 5-minute routine, it would straighten out all their energies, whether they're blocked somewhere, whether they're scrambled or running backwards, or if it's something called homolateral. If they're homolateral and the energies aren't crossing over, and it straightens everything out. So suddenly you can tap into your own inner healer, and you can heal easier. Everything gets better. You can get your vitality back.
You can learn easier.
Oh God, yeah.
Tell the kids about the learning challenges you had.
Oh, well, I grew up very dyslexic, and I mean very dyslexic, and so I transposed numbers and letters and words. And if I ever got up to speak in front of everyone, there's just no way the right words would have ever come out. So energy medicine, which I thought was just going to heal me from my illnesses, ended up also straightening out my brain. And over the years, especially earlier years, I did so much work in school systems. I just sort of plowed my way in because it was so important for people to get that kids who have been labeled as not smart in this or not smart in that, usually they were very smart, but the energy had gotten confused, and it could have been even from the teacher, that the teacher's energy was scrambled, and they couldn't learn from this person. So
how did you manage that in school with that complexity of learning issues? It had to be difficult.
No, it wasn't difficult.
Really?
No, this is simple, user-friendly stuff. And when kids, I
mean, in school it must have been difficult.
Well, it was. For me. Yeah. Oh, I thought it meant to try to convince anybody that this was. No, in school, yes. I mean, once I had an IQ test, and the IQ test showed because somebody asked me the questions.
Right.
And it showed I don't usually tell people this, but it showed that I was off the chart. I was so smart. But then they gave it to me written, and it looked like I was really below level, Right. So it didn't fit with the norm, and I was able to get by as long as I could convince, or my mother could convince a teacher, let her do an essay test. And if it was essay, somehow I could do it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's what moms do, is go in there.
Yeah, moms.
Fight for you.
Right.
It's really neat. And then one thing I wanted to know is you had a period of illness in your life.
Oh, yes. I mean, in the first week, am I looking at you or looking at
anybody?
I don't have to look at that.
No.
Okay. when the first week of life, I got a very high fever, and I burned off my capacity to make enzymes. So the very foods that would make other people healthy made me very sick, and I'd end up in the hospital if I ate any fruits or vegetables, which was very confusing for everybody. And so I was allergic. I got more and more allergic to things in my surrounding area, but also with any foods I ate. And I became very hypoglycemic, so my blood sugar was always low. They thought I was going to tip into diabetes at any time, but I never did. I went the other way, low blood sugar. And then as a little girl, I got tuberculosis from not being able to eat the foods that I never even had sugar, and nothing like that would make you bad. I never tasted sugar till I was in 7th grade. But But
Wow.
nutrition-wise, I still was in incredible trouble.
Your mother must have known something about
My
nutrition.
mother was brilliant. Well, she had tuberculosis too. She got tuberculosis because she, she'd had a rheumatic heart. She'd had all sorts of stuff growing up. She was an orphan. She was never, but she always thought that as much as she wanted a family, I thought, maybe it was just me, I thought one of the reasons she was such a great mom is nobody told her how she had to do it.
Oh.
So she was spiritual, but it was not to any particular group. Incredibly spiritual, and she always saw energy, so she kept it alive for us. And I am very convinced that all babies can see energy when they're born. But have you ever picked up a baby and they looked all around your head? They're looking at your aura, and so
I never thought of that.
Yeah. And so my mother just kept it alive. So my brother and my sister and I all saw energy, and so my mother was really smart. She always knew that the body naturally heals itself. You don't have to go to somebody else and fill your body full of poisons and medicines. So that was really in my background. But then at 16, I got multiple sclerosis. And it got worse and worse and worse until the point that I could hardly walk at all, and spent much of 2 years without walking. I started having babies, and I'd be very healthy when I was pregnant, by the way. And so, but when I wasn't pregnant, it's like all the health had to be towards having these babies. And then when I wasn't pregnant, everything would come back. And at 27, I had a heart attack. And then I had asthma, really, really bad. And but the worst was my multiple sclerosis, because everything was spiraling down. And you know how that sensation of your hands or your feet falling asleep?
Yeah.
My entire body went that way. So at times I couldn't talk, but not being able to walk, I went to 5 different specialists, and they all said I was going to die. And I did. The most anybody gave me was 3 years. The others gave me under a year, because all my organs were breaking down. And that 5th time that a doctor said that to me, some light went off in me, and I said, I'll heal myself then. It's like, and that I've always thought that was one of the best things that ever happened to me, that Western medicine gave up on me.
Yes.
Right. That I had to heal myself.
That's right.
And energy, energy is the foundation of everything. It's the foundation of Western medicine. It's the foundation of everything. It is the life force. It is the most spiritual thing, It is.
That's right.
And
it's that essence.
Yeah, it is that essence. So I just began working with my energies. And the first thing I did was put my hand right on my hip, my other hand here. And I noticed that it only took 3 minutes for the energy to start connecting up. And then from there, I just went on and on. I just started healing myself. But my focus was multiple sclerosis. But what happened was that in 7 weeks, I lost my allergies to wheats and grains. I'd never had a piece of bread all my life. And suddenly, I could eat it. And then it just kept going like that. And so other things that were less than multiple sclerosis started clearing up. My asthma started clearing up, my everything. So it was the whole ball of wax. And then, but when I got well from MS, I wanted to share it with everybody I know.
How did you know what to do?
In the beginning, I didn't. It was just all, first of all, I could see energy and I could feel it. So I was very attuned in that way, and it was all just, it was a guessing game. It's like, I wonder what would happen if I did this. I wonder what would happen. And then when I was, when I was much, much better, but not all the way well, we went to live in Fiji. And in Fiji, we were on this island, and the Fijians, oh my God, I felt like it was the geographical counterpart to myself. And one of the things is the Fijians were Christians, but only the very best of Christianity did they have. They had missionaries come there, and then the missionaries left very quick. And the only thing they got was, let's see if I can remember, I don't remember I can't say the verse as it really is written, but it means, you don't have to worry about anything. God care of the lilies of the field, it'll take care of you. So they never worried about anything. And they also, they worked when they wanted to. It was for you know, to feed themselves. But you also didn't have to get food through money. You know, by the time I left Fiji, I could stab fish. I picked up breadfruit out of the ground. Everything was natural. Everything was very natural. But the other thing was, I got bit by something called a no-no. And it's some kind of little insect that foreigners sometimes can be very sensitive to, and it can kill you. And because my immune system was so low, and I hadn't gotten myself completely back, I went instantly into a coma. But before I went into a coma, I mean, I never had such pain in my life. And then I went into a coma. And I was taken to a hospital on the mainland. And they said, well, she's going to live or she's going to die. And there's nothing we know how to do. In the mainland, there were more Indians from India than there were Fijians. And so they were Indians who took care of me in the hospital. So I was taken back to the island, and nobody knew what to do. But next door to where we lived, there was a village called Batu Karasa. And there were shamans in the village, and they said, we know what to do, it's no big deal. So they dug a hole in the sand, stuck me down in the sand with just my head out for 2 days to let the toxins drain out from the sand, and poured water over me and gave me water. And I remember twice waking up in those 2 days thinking, finally, somebody knows what they're doing. It wasn't strange at all. It was like, so I stayed there for quite a while, and I worked with the shamans there too, because these were people who understood, and they gave me more insights about things, about energy. Most everybody who did not live in the city saw energy. It was just what was natural. It was not anything unusual, and they were just full of love and goodness, and so I loved living there. When I came back, this is how I got to understand a lot more, and I give credit to the Touch for Health organization. When I came back from Fiji, there was a woman in the airport, and she had a t-shirt on with 2 hands, and it said, what did it say? I think it said, Touch for Health. I think that's what it said. And I went up to her and I said, and I couldn't talk. I had real culture shock. It was strange. People were running around. I got into Hawaii first, and they had Hawaiian shirts on, and they looked very strange because for 2 years I had one long piece of material, and that was both my dress and my sheet and towel and everything. So people looked so funny, and when I had left, men had long hair. When I came back, they'd cut it off, and they looked stupid. Men looked terrible with their short hair. And they also were wearing, I left when they had hippie clothes. I came back, and they were wearing banlon suits, you know, these rubber-looking suits, and they were terrible looking. And so I had real culture shock. And so I couldn't talk to this woman with her t-shirt, and I just said, I was pointing to her shirt, and finally I got something like, what is that? And she said, she looked at her shirt, she said, I'm so excited, I'm going off to become a Touch for Health instructor. And I said, me too. Because I knew that I felt like lightning struck me. This light came down and flooded me, and I thought, this is the route. And just to finish this off, we have lots of time. Oh, good. I called up Touch for Health to find out about where could I take a class, and they made a mistake on me. A very correct mistake. They wrote me a letter and said, we understand you passed all your tests to become a Touch for Health instructor. So you just have to take the week-long teacher's training, which is Tuesday, and I went. I said, okay. So I went, and I didn't know a thing about their stuff, except that they gave me language for a lot of what I was learning about myself. And so
did you feel you could do that because you already knew so much about healing and you could see it?
No, I felt like lightning struck me in the airport, and I was directed. I followed it. And I followed it, and I didn't know what I was getting into. You know? And so it was, and then, you know, that was a week long, and I finished on a Wednesday, and I taught my first class on Friday. I just I went into a yoga class, and I just told them because I didn't know who else to tell. And so I got them, and I got friends, and I got...
And I think you said that as you work with it more, if you don't see it, maybe you will at least sense it in some way.
You know what? You do not... One of the things that I have devoted the last 34 years to is teaching people who don't see energy, first of all, that it doesn't matter. You start working with energy, your senses get more acute. You start opening. I know many, many people who have turned back on that ability to see energy. It just lays dormant in us. And so whatever you don't use, can start turning on again, because energy, that's all there is energy. I mean, you're not solid. We're lattice works of force fields. And so if you start working with it, and it'll turn back on. My daughter's sense of smell got so strong she didn't want to work in it anymore because she didn't want to smell. But she also can hear, so she can hear the energies move. Whatever is sort of dormant. She's also the best color reader. Now, she had turned that off in schools, in the school systems, because schools, do not promote this kind of thing. But it's all back on for her. But many people do. And many people, they don't know why they know it, but they know it. And when they start acting on what they knew, but they didn't know they knew it, or how they knew it, then everything starts. It's always exactly right. So
it's phenomenal. It's a phenomenal story.
I've often thought that I was supposed to get all of those illnesses. I was supposed to, because I was supposed to be doing this.
Right.
And I loved what's his name's speech last night.
Jack Canfield.
Jack Canfield. I adore him. We've been on several
things together.
Sockets. What are they? Dockets together.
Oh, I don't know.
But one of the things I thought when he was talking last night about, you've got to have a goal. I have never had an ounce of ambition. The only thing I've had was I wanted to share this with everybody. And that when you do what you love and what it all starts falling into place. You don't have to have that kind of goal where I look. You don't have to. And it just becomes, the whole world starts orchestrating for you, and it falls into place.
Right. So what might you say to these kids? And I do want to say, Donna, we had a similar experience of getting ill. It took me 10 years. I didn't figure it out, but I was finally found someone who could, and our house was moldy.
Oh, mold in a house.
And this is a long time ago, so no one really talked about it.
That's right.
But similar, I really learned a lot because nobody knew what was going on.
Yes.
Like for Ben, they diagnosed him with an immune system deficiency when he was 2 months old. And he couldn't keep food down, and he was really ill, and I just kept searching and searching and searching. So we've all gone through that, and but we still have a lot more healing to do because, we try to eat better and take supplements, but I think the energy aspect is something we really need to incorporate more.
It's so important. Any vitamins or minerals or food that you do take in, that energy of those things really need to match your vibration, and that's more important than what anybody tells you is healthy for you. It's like, it could be the healthiest food in the world, supposedly, but if you can't digest it, if you can't metabolize it, it's just another poison, And my mother died of what was it called then? It was called sick house syndrome. They called it 10 years ago, and they found out that it was they were building houses in Oregon where she was living, brand new houses that you didn't need much gas and electric or anything for, and the house would stay warm and cool in the summer. But what it did was it locked all toxins in. So it was all made with all this stuff that was artificial, and so she got sick house syndrome, and basically when she'd had tuberculosis before, in those days they didn't know what to do for TB, so they collapsed one of her lungs, and the other one, they started to collapse, and somebody stopped, so she only had like a third of a lung that she lived her life on. Very healthy, by the way, because she paid no attention to what doctors had to say, and she didn't take medicine. She knew that that would kill her, so she just had to stay away from toxins. So in the end, what got her was toxins that she couldn't figure out where they coming from, you know? So it's, I mean, we live in a world we didn't evolve to live in, and that's just the truth. So we have these Stone Age immune systems that really handled a natural world, but now we're living in a world, we've got to evolve our bodies quickly. That's
Or I think we need to really pay attention to what we're creating here that's not consistent with what's really meant to be.
Absolutely. And yet, but, no, it's not an and yet, it's a sort of but, is that we're not going to be able to make the world go turn around.
That's right.
So we better teach our bodies how to live in this world. And then, I mean, we'll be lucky if it turns around, but probably we're going to have to make our bodies be able to survive in this world. You know, and I was also told that they wanted to put me in a tent because my immune system was so weak when I was a baby, so that nobody would ever touch me, which would have really killed me. You know, it's like the modern world doesn't quite know how to deal with all these things. But you know what? It's getting better and better and better, and I now get many, many doctors in my classes. I also get nurses can have continuing education credit by taking things in energy medicine, which is astounding.
That's wonderful.